Have you ever walked into a room where everyone had something to say about you, but no one had the courage to say it to your face? Have you ever felt your heart race because someone gave you a look, or a sarcastic comment, or a cold silence that sliced deeper than 1,000 words? We all have. And in that moment, most people do the same thing. They react, they break, they beg for closure, they cry for validation. But I am here to tell you today, stop giving people the power to disturb your inner world. Act as if nothing bothers you, not because you're made of steel, but because you've mastered the art of protecting your peace. The untrained mind is a slave to emotion. Let's start from the basics. Your brain is wired for survival, not happiness. That means it constantly scans for danger, insult, rejection, comparison, and every time it finds something, it flares up. Anger, fear, doubt, ego. Now here's the problem. If you don't train your mind, you will react to every little trigger. Your life will become a puppet show, and guess what? You won't even be holding the strings. One message left unseen. You spiral into self-doubt. One criticism. Your mood is destroyed for the day. One rejection. You start questioning your worth. Is that the life you want? A life where your entire identity is on rent, controlled by whoever decides to comment on it? No. That's why you must train yourself to respond with power, not panic. That begins when you learn to act as if nothing bothers you. Acting doesn't mean faking. It means leading. When I say act as if nothing bothers you, I'm not asking you to lie to yourself. I'm not saying to kill your emotions. I'm saying take control. Be the leader of your emotional world. Think of it like this. A king doesn't run outside the palace every time someone throws a rock at the gate. A lion doesn't turn around every time a dog barks. A pilot doesn't panic every time the plane shakes. They have one thing in common. They understand what deserves their energy. You must too. Start walking like your peace is protected by divine security. Start sitting like your dignity doesn't need defending. Start responding like you've already seen the battlefield, and you came back wiser. That's power. That's emotional maturity. That's what separates those who exist from those who lead. The world is a mirror. It reflects what you show. Here's a truth people don't like to hear. The world treats you exactly how you allow it to. If you show that you get bothered easily, people will use it against you. If you show that your buttons are easily pushed, they'll push them again and again. But the moment you stop reacting, when you keep your calm even in the middle of chaos, when you start smiling when they expect you to break, you confuse them, you disarm them, you rise above them, because silence makes more noise than screams ever can. You become untouchable, not because people change, but because your energy becomes too expensive for their nonsense. Let me tell you a story. There was a monk once. He sat every morning by the river in silence. One day a man came and shouted at him, "You are a fake. You're doing nothing useful in this world. You're just sitting." The monk didn't reply. He smiled and kept meditating. Next day the man came again, shouted even louder, cursed him. The monk smiled, stayed still. After a week of shouting every day, the man asked, "Why don't you reply? Don't you care what I say?" The monk opened his eyes, smiled, and said, "If someone tries to gift you something and you don't accept it, who does the gift belong to?" The man replied, "To the one who brought it." The monk said, "Exactly. I didn't accept your anger, so it still belongs to you." Let that sink in. Every reaction is an investment. Think of this in terms of currency. Every time you react, you're spending energy. You're paying attention. You're paying in peace, in focus, in self-worth. Now tell me honestly, are you investing in growth or wasting it on gossip? Are you feeding your future or feeding your insecurities? Start tracking your emotional budget. Is that fight worth your calm? Is that reply worth your time? Is that overthinking worth your night's sleep? Most times the answer is no. Protect your energy like it's your last resource, because in many ways it is. But what about my emotions? Let's be real. You're human. You will feel hurt. Yes, people will betray you. Yes, rejection will sting. Yes, words will cut deep. But here's the difference between the average and the awakened. The average person reacts immediately. The awakened person feels it, processes it, and then responds, or if it's worth it. You are allowed to feel everything, but you are not required to react to everything. Feel it, but don't feed it. Acknowledge it, but don't amplify it. Learn from it, but don't live in it. Because sometimes emotional silence is your loudest strength. From reaction to resurrection, here's what starts to happen when you adopt this mindset. Your confidence increases because you're not always shaken. Your relationships improve because you're not always offended. Your focus sharpens because you're not always distracted. Your energy stabilizes because you're not always drained. You start to glow differently. You enter a room and people sense it. This person is not to be messed with, not because you're aggressive, but because you're unshakably calm. You become the kind of person whose presence feels like peace, the kind that doesn't yell to prove a point, because your energy speaks louder than words. When you act calm, you attract power. Think about the people you admire. Are they reactive, loud, needy? No, they're composed, disciplined, focused, and that makes them attractive, powerful, respected. You don't have to be the loudest in the room. You just have to be the most anchored. When you're calm, you can think clearly. When you're calm, you can plan your next move. When you're calm, you don't just survive life, you master it. Your silence teaches more than your words ever will. There's something deeply powerful about being silent in a noisy world. Everyone wants to speak, to argue, to prove their point. But the one who remains silent, who refuses to be dragged into meaningless conversations, they hold the real authority in any room. Why? Because silence does not mean weakness. It means you don't owe everyone your energy. It means you've reached a level where you don't need to be right all the time. You don't need to convince every critic. You don't need to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Let people think what they want. Let them write their own stories in their minds. Let them spread their assumptions. Because your silence is a mirror. It reflects their insecurities back to them, without you ever speaking a word. And trust me, that mirror hurts more than your loudest argument ever could. When you master this, you become a lesson, a walking example of discipline, power, and grace. Emotional control is the key to freedom. Everyone wants freedom, but very few realize that true freedom is not about doing what you want. It's about not being controlled by what you feel. You're not free if one insult can ruin your day. You're not free if a rejection can destroy your confidence. You're not free if you constantly live on other people's approval. Real freedom is when your mind stays still while the world spins, when your heart stays warm even in cold surroundings, when your soul stays untouched by the storms outside. That's when you stop being a prisoner of the world and start becoming a master of your own life. Emotional control is not about becoming numb. It's about choosing your response. When you control your emotions, you control your reactions. When you control your reactions, you control your outcomes. And when you control your outcomes, you control your destiny. The warriors walk from this day forward. Walk like a warrior. Not the one with a sword, but with silence. Not the one who fights every battle, but the one who chooses which battles are worth his fire. When someone tries to provoke you, smile and walk away. When life tests your patience, Breathe and stay rooted. When you're underestimated, let your success speak louder than your defense. And when everything is burning around you, be the one who remains still. That is not weakness. That is supreme strength. So act as if nothing bothers you. Because most of the time, it doesn't deserve to.